myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not.
Morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Those Were the Days with George Mitchell. I've been studying my Newcastle United complete record. Don't panic that it only goes to 1986 because we're still back in the 50s with George. We're on to episode 3. George, honestly, mate, I really enjoyed doing this show with you. And we've had a couple of trophies in the first couple. So which season are we looking at today?
52-53, and it's the beginning of the... of a downturn for a variety of reasons, I think. You remember where we ended last time after the FA Cup, how everything seemed rosy, but there was infighting amongst the players and the directors about how much the players were being paid and all the rest of it. And Ernie Taylor went up to Blackpool and doubled his wages, which didn't do much for the dressing room atmosphere either. The other thing, which, I didn't show the photo, it might have been included, but I didn't show it. The second winning the cup for the second time was really something outstanding and touched a lot of people. I mean, even John Lennon made a cover for one of the LPs, and he painted it as a kid of George Robledo heading in the winning goal at Wembley, and that was, that's how important it was to everybody. But also in the final, there were other things happening in the background. I don't know how much the winners got, but Arsenal apparently as losers got about $5,000. Prize money now is about 10 million for that. But the word got back to Newcastle that the Arsenal club had taken half the prize money and split the other half with the players. Well, Newcastle players were winners and got absolutely nothing. It wasn't the sort of thing to get back to the club to start on a happy note. The other thing that happened was that George Robledo was man of the match, and Ronston Lighters presented him with a fantastic lighter where after the match as his prize, and Peerless Cigarettes persuaded him to have an advertising photograph taken, actually smoking one of their cigarettes with his lighter in his hand. Now, I tried to get a copy of that to put on here, but the website it's on is one of those websites that doesn't let you take things off. It just cancels you. So, but it's there if anyone wants to dig. Now, why I mentioned Peerless Cigarettes, because that we're talking about the Wembley final, the 3rd of May, with the last match about a week later. And then suddenly the announcement that we're going on a tour of South Africa, Rhodesia, and Mozambique. And we play, I think it's, it's in here somewhere, that we play something like 16 games in 70 days. And it's just horrendous. Straight after a very hard season. I mean, you and I have gasped a couple of times at the number of games these players were playing. And then suddenly the directors say, right, we're off on a tour of South Africa, Rhodesia and Mozambique. And the itinerary, you've got a picture of the team there. That's the lads in the suits that were provided by Peerless Cigarettes. You can see the advertising all over the... Peerless Cigarettes were a branch of the London American Tobacco Company, because they grew their tobacco in South Africa and Rhodesia. And that's the squad that went. Basically the cup final squad with all the reserves and the people hangers on, and some directors and so on, and a director from the tobacco company who was organising the tour. And they look very smart, I must say. That it's no denying that they look. And so that's the squad that went off to South Africa. And as I say, 3rd of May in the final. Couple of days later, the last league match, and then 17th of May, the first game in Johannesburg, would you believe? So we'll fly out to South Africa straight after we've finished the season here, and they're playing the Transvaal in Johannesburg on May the 17th. And you think, well, what the devil are they doing? I mean, I think it's 17 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 games in 60 days. So, you know, what a punishing schedule. So it's like adding a half a season onto their playing time, but in heat and everything else. So first game on the 17th of May in Johannesburg. And then on the 21st of May, we play Natal. And I think we've got a programme, Steve, somewhere in there from Natal. That's the itinerary.
That's the itinerary, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's fantastic bit of history, that, George.
Yeah, I mean, what I've done is I've gone through the distances travelled, and I think you'll be gobsmacked when I get to the total at the end. That's the Natal. That's the Natal game. Yes, 24th of May, in Durban, and it was all games which they won every match. By the way, that was the other interesting thing. And some of the matches were almost either Milburn or Robledo solos. There's one later on where Robledo beat a team 7-0 and Robledo scored all 7. I mean, you know, he still was performing. So we'll go to from Johannesburg to Pietermaritzburg, play Natal, and then we play that. The next one is Natal again in Durban. That's the programme. And the distance from Johannesburg to Pietermaritzburg is 250 miles. The distance from Pietermaritzburg to Durban is only 60 miles. But then they get to Durban and they have a free day on the 28th of May and go to play Western Province in Cape Town, which is 800 miles away. So, you know, the miles are clocking up for the team. I don't know what the other programs have.
Do you just want us to go through them? Northern Transvaal.
Yeah.
And the next one.
Well, that's a little bit further down. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was this one that you sent me, which was Newcastle United versus South Africa. Is that the international team?
Yes, the full national team. Yeah. There's 2 games against them towards the end of the tour. But if you leave, no, there's a picture of a medal right. Okay. The cigarette company produced these things. It's a strip of black and white silk, and it's got a little badge on it, and Newcastle United at the top, and that's made in cardboard. It's not metal; it's a cardboard thing. And apparently, they sold these outside the grounds where Newcastle were playing, and sold dozens of them. Well, hundreds and thousands of them. The interesting thing is, do you know where I got the copy of that one? From John Alder's stuff on the website. Yeah, I mean, it was quite touching, really, to find some of his stuff still on the internet, and that's one bit that was there. The other interesting thing I found about this badge thing is there's one on eBay at the moment for £95. It's just a bit of cloth, bit of cardboard at the top with a name on, £95. But of course, it's not surprising because it's a real piece of history. Anyway, they go to Natal and play Natal in Durban. Then on the 28th of May, they have a free day and go to Cape Town, which is an 800-mile travel to play Western Province. Beat Western Province, and then on the 4th of June, which is hardly a week away, they go. Well, I say a fly, that they might have gone on a train, 520 miles to Kimberley to play Grootland West, and again another game they won. 3 days later, on the 7th of June, they play Northern Transvaal in Pretoria, which is another 295 miles away for the team to travel. And then on the 10th of June, another 3 days, they're off to Lorenzo Marques, which we know as Mozambique nowadays, which was 350 miles away. and they're playing Mozambique, Lorenzo Marques on that time. 14th of June, 4 days later, on a Saturday, we'll play Northern Rhodesia in Nakana, which well, I think we know it as Salisbury, not Salisbury. Nakana is the new Salisbury, the new Rhodesian capital. Anyway, Harare, I think is the name, modern name. But from Lorenzo Marques to Nakana, 600 mile. So they got 600 mile to go to Rhodesia. Then they play on the 18th, Wednesday the 18th, they play Southern Rhodesia in Salisbury, and that's another 500 mile travel. Then on the 21st, another 3 days, Saturday the 21st, they play Eastern Transvaal in Benoi, which is 693 miles away. On 25th of June, on the Wednesday, they play the Orange Free State in Bloemfontein, which is another 267 miles. And and as I say, they're winning all these games with no problem at all. And then on Saturday, the 28th of June, they actually go back to Durban, which is another 405 mile travel, to play South Africa, the full South African national team, and they win handsomely. Is that the one? Is it? Yes, it is. Yes. It's Saturday, 20th of June, and they beat the South African team by 5-0. It wasn't much of a problem for them, but bear in mind how South African football's grown since then. And I suppose you could say that we were doing this tour, we had a little hand in helping that to develop, I suppose. And then July the 2nd, they go to East London to play Border, which is another 389 miles travel. And this is the one where they win 7-0 and George Robledo scores all 7. It's unbelievable. Then it's Saturday, the 5th of July, Eastern Province at Port Elizabeth, which is a mere 179 miles away. And then on 9th of July, Wednesday, 9th of July, they get a free day, would you believe? A free day, it says. 3 days later, the 12th of July, Saturday, they're back at Johannesburg to play South Africa again. And again, they win 3-0, beat the national side 3-0. And then they stay in Johannesburg to play Southern Transvaal under floodlights. So that was a first in South Africa, first floodlight match in South Africa. And that concluded the tour that they embarked on. And the total miles travelled, and I've taken these miles off Google Maps, so there could be, it's debatable whether they're short or whether they're long. But nevertheless, the total miles travelled by that team in those 60 days is 5,970 miles. I mean,
amazing really, George.
On the back of a huge season. I mean, you and I have gasped occasionally on the number of games the Newcastle players were playing. Now, they added this at the end of the season after a win in the cup as well. It's just unbelievable, But they carried it out, and I've no idea what Newcastle United got for this tour. I bet it was a handsome fee. There's no doubt about it. And I gather the players got a match fee each time they played. But I know the talk was when they arrived back was that how on earth are they going to be prepared for the season to come? Because when they arrived back in Newcastle, they only had 4 weeks to prepare for the season ahead, for the 52-53 season. And that included players having holidays and that sort of thing. So the discussions about this tour clearly, in my mind, was that the directors taking a decision without any consideration of the players at all, or even discussions, I would think. And it kind of pleases me at the moment the way our new owners do seem to include player discussions in what they're doing and all the rest of it, and fans, but players particularly, because this sort of thing, that this tour after the cup final, after a hard season, could only burn the players out. I mean, how on earth? And I gather it particularly upset the Robledo brothers, And I think towards the end of the season, you'll see how badly it upset them. But nearly 6,000 miles travelled, it on top of a really hard season was just too much, But never mind. It didn't go unnoticed when they came back. I mean, there's a number of articles in the Chronicle saying how concerned they were about how tired the players were and all this sort of thing. But no comment about how much money Newcastle United made out of the tour, because it must have been a good bit, I bet. So they are. But I just thought it was an interesting way to start the season, to finish.
Fascinating, really. And when we talk about now, modern day, we're talking about the pre-season that Newcastle's, of recent times have had, and we're going, oh God, you shouldn't be going there. It's it's too far. It takes it out of you. But when you listen to that, it's like, wow. And I mean, in those days, aeroplanes weren't the same as they are now. The journeys would have taken a lot longer and a lot more.
Well, I suspect some of the shorter distances, like from Kimberley to Pretoria, for example, my bet is they did that on the train, because there's some fantastic trains in South Africa, probably more comfortable than the aeroplanes, I would guess. Because the aeroplanes then in the 52, you're talking about Dakotas that were ex-war planes, turned into airliners. It really was crude by today's standards, and yet here we are subjecting. I mean, we even argue now about players going off to play in national tournaments. Well, even when they go and do that, they haven't got the pressure that this is. I mean, this is almost slavery, by comparison. And as I say, we get upset if players are going to play in the national tournaments and worried about how they'll be when they'll come back and all the rest of it. But that wasn't the best way to start 52, 53. And I think as the season unfolds, you'll see what the outcome was in it, Steve.
Good stuff. So pre-season over, into the season, where we're going next?
Well, I think that next photographs are into the FA Cup, because the FA Cup was the one hope I think we all had, that maybe we could pull ourselves together and go on a third run, and maybe a record-breaking 3 wins on the trot. But it didn't get off like that. That's the third round was against Swansea at St James's, and that's the players going off because of the fog. You can see how bad the fog is, because you can't see the supporters at the other side of the ground. This is taken from what we would call the Milburn stand to the other side, and you can't even see the supporters as the fog's so thick. And the players went off and they came back on, and a couple of times, but there was no way was the match going to be played. So it was put off and rearranged for the Wednesday. The one thing that happened after that incident was that Swansea Town didn't immediately go back to Swansea. Yes, that's the Saturday game, which was postponed, and then the next one was the following Wednesday, when it was actually played. But the Saturday game that was postponed because of the fog, Swansea was staying at the Rex Hotel at Whitley Bay, and they decided that at least the managers and directors decided, on the advice of their coach driver, that they would stay at the Rex. They wouldn't travel home that night because of the fog, because they were going to get interrupted all the way back to Swansea. So they decided they'd stay overnight at the Rex Hotel and go back on the Sunday. Well, lo and behold, the players discovered in the Rex Hotel where they were staying that the Rex Hotel had a link to New Hartley Juniors, who were playing on the Sunday morning at Seaton Delaval. And the New Hartley lads that were working in the hotel turned up with the Seaton Delaval match in tow with some of the Swansea players, the Charles brothers and people like that, all turned up at Seaton Delaval to watch this junior game. And it's still legend in Seaton Delaval, apparently, that they talk about when Swansea came to Seaton Delaval to watch New Hartley Juniors play in a match, which is quite something. You know, would it happen today? I don't know. Depending on the players. But the John Charles's brother went, and Al Church went. All the big names went to Seton Delville to see this game, and then went back to Rex to have their lunch, and then off home they went on their travels. So the game was actually played on the Wednesday, and I think there's the Wednesday programme faces there as well.
Yeah. Okay. We've got this one.
No, that's it's the one before that one, I think.
This is the one I put up before.
That's it. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's the Saturday one. The match went off on the Wednesday. People got replacement tickets, and or did we just? No, we just kept the counterfoils of the tickets and went back to the ground for the Wednesday for the replay, and we beat Swansea 3-0 with regulation goals from Middlesbrough, Rob Lido and Mitchell, I think it was, the last one being a Mitchell penalty. So we got through to the third round, and everybody thought, well, that was regulation. Fourth round was very kind to it, and we were drawn against Rotherham. Now everybody in Newcastle thought, well, third division team at home, that's it, that's the programme, and with Bobby Mitchell on it, and everybody thought, well, this is passport to the fifth round, no problem. And lo and behold, I think the next one's the team sheet. I think Steve, yeah, that's it. That's our team there: Simpson, Cowell, McMichael, Stoke, Brennan, Casey, Walker, Hannah, Robledo, Keeble, Mitchell. Milburn was missing matching it now because he had a knee injury, and it was a bad one. And it says in the records of that season that you can read, it was the 1 year when he got so fed up he considered putting a transfer request in, but he persuaded not to by Seymour. So that was a strong team against what was an average third division team. The other thing about that Rotherham team was we weakened it significantly because a couple of weeks before that we'd bought their best player, Len White. And there's a picture of Len White there. Who was to be there? That's Len White. Now, Len White later on was to become a star with us as another great centre forward. In fact, he's a bit like Jackie Milburn in the sense that he could play devastatingly on the right wing or down the middle as centre forward and score goals from almost anywhere. In fact, some of the best goals I've seen were scored by Len White. He wasn't a very big fella, stocky, very, very thick set, very strong legs. But by Jove, and he could climb the head and all that sort of thing. So we bought him from Rotherham for about $3,000, which was a snip really. And thinking, well, that's weakened the Rotherham team quite a bit. But little did we know that far from weakening the team, Rotherham took with the pieces at St James's Park and beat with 3-1 quite easily. I remember being at that match and being really upset. That's Bobby Mitchell going in against the Rotherham goalkeeper, and you can see that it was a packed crowd as well.
Fantastic photos, George.
Yeah, I mean, and that's Robledo and Keeble, I think, against Rotherham. Yeah, I mean they are, and look at the old floodlights. They were the first floodlights. On that picture, and they were the floodlights that used to play the first floodlit match at St James's Park against Celtic. We played the game against Celtic in February '53, and those were the lights that were used for that match. We beat Celtic 2-0. Typical Newcastle, though, not satisfied with one match under the floodlights. About 3 weeks later, they took the team to Glasgow and played a return match at Celtic Park. So they were adding matches to the team without the league and the cup, and after that horrendous summer tour, they're still adding matches in to play. And it was almost suicidal, actually, I think, Steve, because that's what happened as we went on. So Rotherham beat with ease. So that was the end of the cup, and we had to concentrate on the league. And concentrate we needed to, because by then we were starting to lose matches. And I've got some of these matches. That was West Brom Yeah, that's West Brom. That the first one was West Brom. Is that home or away, Steve? I can't remember.
I think that's a home game. Looking at the program, yeah,
that one. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, we played West Brom on the 1st of January '53, and we lost 5-3. Now, the reason I've included that match is that because my family, the Wall's End Academy, and there's the team sheet. No, that's the away one. That's it. West Brom. But anyway, the first one at home, West Brom just took me apart. And the reason I included it was I was taken to that match and instructed by my uncles and my dad and others to watch for names like Ronnie Allen, Ray Barlow, Jimmy Dudley, Johnny Nichols in the West Brom team, because they were regarded as one of the best footballing teams in the first division. And I mean, all of those was Kennedy, Barlow, Ronnie Allen, Griffin, and Johnny Nichols, all playing for England, in and out the England squad at the time. Our team wasn't a bad one. It was Simpson, Cowell, Cahill, Stoke O'Brien, Casey, Tommy Walker, Tommy Mulgrew, who was a useful inside forward, Jackie Milburn, Reg Davis, and Bobby Mitchell. And it looked like it was going to be a routine win for us up to half time. Davis put us in the lead. Milburn added another, and then Bobby Mitchell added the third. And then lo and behold, after half time, West Brom suddenly put their football boots on. Ray Barlow scored just after half time. Frank Griffin added a second. George Lee a third. Johnny Nichols the fourth, and then the fifth by Reg Ryan just towards the end. In the end, they really did rub our noses in it with a 49,000 crowd looking at that. So we were already shown the lead in our boots, as it were, in these games, I think, as much as anything. Certainly that was the view of the people that I used to go to the match with. Now, the return match, which was sometime... the first match was much earlier. It was 27th of August when we went to West Brom to play. They beat were 1-0, and again with ease. I mean, it was virtually the same team. George Lee scored. We had Simsel, Cowell, Michael, Harvey, Brennan, Crow, Billy Fuchs, George Hanna, Jackie Milburn, George Robledo, and Bobby Mitchell, and yet they lost very quietly, is the best way to describe it. They didn't come out of it very well. So the reason, as I say, I picked these games because A, I was there, and B, there was significant players playing who people would wanted to see at that particular time, and. Were good football games, is how I would describe it. I don't know what the next one is, Steve.
Okay, we're into programs now, so maybe this will jog your memory with
that's
some of
fine.
the games
Yeah,
you wanted to talk about.
That's fine. Yeah. Well, Blackpool is the one which I've talked a lot about because of the Ernie Taylor situation, and I've got it here somewhere. I'm sure. I know I have. George, I sorted them all out, so I thought
I'll let you do that. What I'll do is I will do the adverts as usual.
Okay, well I've got it.
To let you get your notes sorted. A big thank you, as always, to our sponsors. Spider Minor, of course, give you worldwide coverage. And I've got to say a big thank you to Gareth and Nathan, the lads down at Spider Minor. They've been with me for such a long time now. And it is the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time while it's using virtually no energy. And it's VPN protected by yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Well worth a visit. Thanks also to Scott, big friend of mine and somebody who's been a big support at skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245. and a garden thing dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to ClickEye, meet the new game over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Media Arts for help with video technology side of things. And if you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the rest. Goes up 24 hours after YouTube finishes. If you want to become a member, hit the join button underneath, and you can do it on YouTube, or you can go to our website and for the pricely sum of £25, get a scarf, a cup, a pen, a membership card, and you'll be entered into the monthly draw. And if you scan your smartphone over the QR code, it will take you straight to the website for that particular membership application. And if you are a subscriber, you can apply for your free NUFC Matters car sticker simply by emailing john@nufcmatters.com. Don't forget, we support the food bank on here, and the Matchday Bucket is virtual and it is available 365 days of the year. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to make a donation. Okay, George, back with you. And Blackpool was the programme.
Blackpool, yes, that's right. And there's a reminder, because there had been interesting exchanges with Blackpool since the cup final a couple of years before that, and the fact that Ernie Taylor left and so on, with a bit of a bad taste in their mouths. We went to Blackpool and nobody expected anything from it. Lo and behold, it happened to be a game where we turned it on a little bit with beat them 2-0 with George Robledo and a man called George Brander scoring the other goal. George who? I said to myself, George Brander. I mean, I actually at the game that came back, and he didn't play in that. And I can't ever remember seeing this George Brander play. He only played 5 games for Newcastle United in his short career. Came down from Scotland, from Falkirk, went with us. Then he went back to Scotland to Ayr and other places in Scotland, but he disappeared almost as quickly as he came. But in any event, he scored the second goal when we beat Blackpool 2-0 at Blackpool. In the return game, of course, which was in 28th of March, we were starting to feel, as I say, the lead was in our boots after all the games the lads had played. And Blackpool gave a bit of a run around that day at St James's Park with 41,000 there. We had a strong team out, Simpson, Cowell, McMichael, Harvey, Brennan, Casey, Fuchs, Hannah, George Robledo, Reg Davis, and Bobby Mitchell. No Jackie Milburn again because of this knee injury. However, Blackpool, really give us a bit of a run around without much challenge from us in that sense. But fortunately, they couldn't hit the net. And lo and behold, about 85 minutes, somebody did hit the net. And who was it? But Ernie Taylor, who my memory is, who my memory tells me went and danced in front of the director's box after he scored. I mean, it really was rubbing it in, to put it mildly. But no Stanley Matthews in that team again. Adds to this notion that he didn't like playing at St James's Park for whatever reason. My family used to think it was always said to them that because he didn't like the crowd being so close, particularly at the corners, when he took a corner, because the crowd was much closer in those days, because the kids used to sit on the wall and all that sort of thing. And I can remember one game he did play where my lot were having a go at him when he was taking a corner on our side at the Gallagher corner, because he also by then was a racehorse owner, and he had horses running at Gosforth Park on the day that Blackpool were playing Newcastle, and we were beating them that day. I can't remember how many, but we were certainly giving them a good going over. And as he came to take over a corner, I remember it was either my Uncle Tom, I think, or my grandfather shouted, "Don't worry, Stan, all your horses have lost at Gosforth as well, so it's made your day." And, and of course he's close enough to hear that, the banter from the fans. But some say that's one of the reasons he didn't like coming to St James's Park. Anyway, that was another interesting game, an interesting set of circumstances as far as I was concerned.
Next one, Portsmouth.
Portsmouth away. My number of our connections with the Chicken Road Academy and their friends had attachment with Portsmouth because had Navy connections. My Uncle Jim was a petty officer and through the Second World War and was captured in Singapore and had a terrible time. Something he never used to talk about. But if there was a chance to go to Pompey, they would go to Pompey. And plus, Portsmouth had a reputation for playing good football, which for our lot was as important as going to see Newcastle was going to see a good football match. So they decided on this day they would go to Portsmouth, and I think they ruled it after they saw the game, because Portsmouth took us apart at the finish. We started well. Vic Keeble, regulation headed goal to get the score and started, but then within minutes, Portsmouth equalised through their captain Jimmy Schooler, who was to later come and play for us, of course, but our captain. He was playing for Scotland then as well, and he was to captain Portsmouth a couple of years later when they were to win the title. Then Les Phillips added a second, Jackie Henderson, Charles Vaughan, and then an Arnold Woolard own goal. Arnold Woolard was a good fullback, but unfortunately, only when he was facing the opponent's goal. when Arnold had to turn around, you get more chance of turning than Esso Northumbria than turning Arnold. So he used to get a hard time off the speedy wingers. I mean, people like Peter Harris and Charlie Vaughan, who were playing for Portsmouth then, and just give them a run around, and the net result was we got a real tanking, which as I say, made for a very miserable journey home on Holland's bus, I can tell you. Glad I wasn't there, to be honest. So, Middlesbrough, yeah. We'll get into derbies, and the one we tend to forget is the Middlesbrough one. Well, I don't forget because I used to get to go to these ones because I think, as I've said on here and to you privately, Steve, I've got family that live in Billingham, and some of them are Smoggies or Middlesbrough supporters. So if we could get a chance to go, we used to go because we could go and see me Aunt Harriet and the family and have a good day. And of course, I had a cousin-in-law who had a Porsche for some of the Thai massage parlours in Middlesbrough, but that's not somewhere we're going to go at this time of the day. And he used to come to the match with us. At least that's what he told his wife. What he really did was he went to the massage parlour where we went to the match, and then he met up with her on the way home. So nobody but us knew what he'd done. Anyway, we went to Middlesbrough, and it was a game which we needed to win. There's no doubt that, because by now you just need to look at the scores in your book, Steve. You'll see we're slowly but surely slipping to the bottom of the league. We're into a relegation fight. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
this was earlier in the season. 2-1. They beat us. We started well. Bobby Mitchell penalty, and then Wilf Mannion turned his magic on and scored 2 goals for Middlesbrough to win the match. But some of the personalities, I mean, Borough did in those days have personalities. Ugolini was the name of that Italian goalkeeper. Fantastic keeper, and had a great rapport with the crowd. And he always had a go with the crowd when he was away as well. He's a real character. The left back was none other than Bobby Corbett, who played for us in a cup final a couple of years beforehand, and had been persuaded by Seymour to retire. Bobby, if you look at our records, you'll see Bobby Corbett retired. Well, a couple of weeks after he retired, Middlesbrough knocked on his door and said, "Oh, you come and play for us," and he did. He did. And he played a couple of seasons for them. Wilf Mannion was playing for them. Of course, he was England's star, outstanding midfielder, inside forward, as I would call him. Clever on the ball, able to score, as you saw in this match. Tap-ins, able to shoot from distance. A really, really clever player, there's no doubt about that. Many of the big clubs tried to tempt Wilf away from Middlesbrough, but he was always faithful to his home club. And then I had a Afro-Caribbean winger called Johnny Spula. What a fantastic player he was, a real speed merchant, and caused a lot of trouble. And then Lindy Delfino was another one who real characters in football that were well liked by all sorts of people. Our team was regulation without Milburn because he was still injured, but with Vic Keeble in the middle and Bobby Mitchell on the left, Reg Davis, Fuchs and Harvey, Crowe, McMichael, Cowell, McMichael, Ronnie Simpson. But we won 2-1, and it's a good job we did. They won 2-1, and they were starting to push us down. The return match was just a few days later, on the 3rd of April. And the reason I'm doing this is Easter weekend. And in their wisdom, the FA used to try and get where teams were close to each other on a holiday weekend to play each other 2 days, one after the other, so that the fans didn't have to travel. Much different to what we're getting now, you know. None of this stupid stuff about travelling to Brighton late on a Friday night to try and play a game and then get home again. This was actually the FA being sensible, or the Football League being sensible. Well, it was all done by the FA then. And so we played them at St. James's just a few days later and managed to beat them 1-0. And we needed to beat them because things were starting to slide. And virtually the same teams. And George Hanna scored the winning goal by about the middle of the second half. 48,500 at St. James's Park that day. So,
why did they play games back to back like that, George? Why did they play derby games back to back? To
stop the travel. Okay. Right. You see, if that had been all it meant is that weekend, that Easter weekend, all that happened was Newcastle fans and Middlesbrough fans had to travel 40 miles instead of 400 if you went to Brighton. You know, see what I mean? It made sense for the fans, particularly, that they could manage their travel and go trips to the match far easier, and organising travel was easier as well. Whereas if you play, as I say, we play like we've had in the past, where we've had Brighton at on 8 o'clock on a Friday night, you know, absolutely balmy nowadays. Whereas that was an honest attempt by the football authorities to say to fans, okay, we know you're next door to each other, so we'll let you have the 2 games back to back, and it means you don't have to travel. And I think it was sensible myself, but never mind.
It makes sense. It does make sense. I've always wondered why. So the next one I've got here is Bolton Wanderers, I think, which is the 25th of April, 1953.
And I've got it somewhere. That's it, yeah. And the reason for this one is sentimental as much as anything, because when I went to this match, my instructions from the academy was that the players to watch, and they were saying there was one player to watch, and that was an exciting new centre forward called Nat Lofthouse, who was starting to tear roots up with Bolton Wanderers, and he wasn't disappointing. Far from it. He was fantastic. It was a good game, good football game, and we again set off like a steam train. George Hanna scored a goal just before half time. Joe Harvey scored the second, which was unusual. Then just after half time, typical Newcastle, we gave a penalty away, and Nat Lofthouse stepped up and scored the penalty. And then shortly after that, Nat Lofthouse made it 2-2, and then just towards the end, Nat Lofthouse made it 3-2. So he got a hat trick, but his play as a centre forward was just amazing. I can't remember any centre forward given Frank Brennan as tough a time as Nat Lofthouse did that day. That it really was a big centre forward display, and it was clear everything that I was being told that my lot had been reading up or writing and about him, and he was fantastic. There were other good players in Bolton's team, though. Stan Hansen, the goalkeeper, was a character. Stan Hansen was one of those characters in a goalie's jumper. The best thing I can say about him was he always looked as though he'd eat all the pies. He wouldn't be the first to take his jumper off in the dressing room. And Johnny Wheeler was an England player. Ray Parry was. Bobby Langton was. And Doug Holden eventually played for England as well. But Doug Holden, as a winger, ended up a couple of years later playing for the Mackhams. So, but that was in, as I say, for sentimental reasons, because I do remember Nat Lofthouse's game. As I say, I've never ever seen Frank Brennan given a worse time by any centre forward other than Nat Lofthouse.
Okay, fantastic. So the next one we've got is Cardiff away.
Yeah, Cardiff away was starting to win games, and Cardiff away was the one which was sentimental for my father, and he persuaded the lads to go to Cardiff, which is a hell of a trip from Newcastle. My father was stationed at RAF St Athan during his Air Force service, and that's very near to Cardiff. So he used to go and see a lot of Cardiff games when he was stationed at St Athan. So they decided to go and see this game, and a long travel. It meant they got back, very early hours of almost Sunday breakfast time when they got back. However, it was a good trip for Holland's buses. Miserable match, 0-0, but as I say, they weren't too unhappy about that because we needed points. The only people I wanted to mention in the Cardiff team was a forward called Ken Chisholm, who ended up playing for the Mackhams. Seymour tried to buy him for us, but he ended up going to the Mackhams. So serve him right, that's all I'd say to that. The return match was in December, and were more on song this time, and we beat them 3-0. Billy Fuchs scored 2 against his former club, and Bobby Mitchell ended up just before the end with a penalty. And it was a regulation sort of win. Still no Jackie Milburn though. He was missing. No Rob Lido either. He was missing. In fact, both Rob Lidos were missing. As I say, a straightforward win as far as we were concerned, but a one that we needed after that. Okay, so what was
next? Great stuff, mate. Well, I mean, so that takes us to the end of the season. So we have a year without, sadly, a year without an FA Cup win.
Yes.
That good run comes to an end.
But being Newcastle, we never end, Steve. That's the trouble. Because that's the year, straight after the end of the season, we played in the Coronation Cup, would you believe? I mean, after all they've had, and we get involved in the Coronation Cup. So all these teams go and stay in Glasgow, and all the games are played in Glasgow. Representing Scotland were Aberdeen, Celtic, Hibernian and Rangers. And representing England were Arsenal, Manchester United, Newcastle United, and Tottenham Hotspur. I mean, here's us in the Big Six, and this, we're in the Big Six. Well, there's the Big Four anyway. And it was to celebrate the Queen's coronation, and it was to say that whoever won this tournament could declare themselves as the champions of Britain. And our team have to put up with that. Go and play in 2 games. We beat Aberdeen 4-0. Sadly lost to Hibernian in the second game by the same score. And the title was won by Celtic beating Hibernian 2-0 at Hampden Park before 117,500 crowd. I mean, 100,000 people. I've heard about that at Hampden, and at Wembley, but for a game between two Scots teams was quite something.
Yeah, fantastic.
Also, just to add to this rubbish that our directors heap on the team, in the middle of October, we're struggling for wins and all the rest of it. We're invited to go to Falkirk and open their floodlights and play in the first match ever played on BBC television in Scotland. So that year we did a lot of firsts, but the players must have been knackered, absolutely knackered. And Falkirk beat with 3-2 at Brockville. But what a jam-packed and crazy season for Newcastle United that was.
So 42 games, won 14, drew 9, lost 19, scored 59, conceded 70, points 37. And the attendance, which of course we like to do this, the previous season 50,766 was the average, but this season the average home attendance was down 45,669. So the performances on the pitch drove a few thousand away, George.
It did, and the other thing that I've noticed if you look at the number of people who played in every game, the last couple of seasons, you and I've picked out half a dozen people who played 40 matches or more.
Yeah.
And this season, Brennan, Cowell, Simpson, they're the three that got anywhere near. Bobby Mitchell got 38. So when in those previous seasons, there was half a dozen stalwarts who played all 40 games, where here people were not playing 40 at all. George Robledo, for example, only played 26, but still ended up as the top goal scorer with 18 goals. Jackie Milburn only played 16 games that season, and that was to do with his knee. And as I say, it got so frustrated he was tempted to put in a transfer request, but thank goodness it didn't happen. But for me, it shows how the relationship between what happens in the boardroom and what happens on the field can be crucial to the results in a season. To embark on that ridiculous tour and then do all these other things as well, Coronation Cup, open the floodlights with Celtic, open Celtic floodlights, the all of that. I mean, it just beggars belief that they would do it. And I'll bet the club made a lot of money that year.
Yeah, fantastic. Great. So, I mean, George, again, it's just a wonderful opportunity for me to sit and listen to somebody who, knows a lot about that era and sharing your stories. And I know that the people who watch the show as well enjoy it. And, brilliant. Any more to say on that season?
No, I think we heaved a sigh of relief. We finished, 18th, but in fact, we're only two points above the relegation places. And interestingly, the guess who we played on the last day of the season and we had to win? Aston Villa.
Wow.
Does that ring a bell?
Did it have any flags?
Yeah, goodness, no. Thank God. But certainly it was a season where we all heaved a sigh of relief because it was obvious to the fans that the players were just absolutely knackered, absolutely cream crackered because of the sort of season it had. How they felt after 6,000 miles in Africa with the heat and the travel and all the rest of it, and then come back 4 weeks before the season started. We're lucky they survived, is my opinion. They're really, really lucky that they survived.
Yeah, so, fantastic.
And the other thing is that whatever happened in Africa and subsequently did upset the Robledos so badly that at the end of the season, Mrs. Robledo went to see Stan Seymour and said, "I'm taking the boys home." And Seymour didn't know what the hell to do. Fortunately, she'd arranged a transfer to Cola, whatever they call them in Chile. And Seymour got just about all the money back that we paid Barnsley for them. So he was lucky. But Mrs. Robledo decided that the boys were going home. And that was it. Whatever Seymour said didn't matter to anybody else. She was taking her lads home. George played for Chile a lot more years after he left us. Ted didn't. Ted went back to sea because he was a seaman. But unfortunately, ended up losing his life in suspicious circumstances, shall we say. A lot of people say he was murdered. He was a card player, he was a gambler, and he got on a German ship which was docked in the UAE, would you believe? This captain said that Ted owed him money and there was a fight, and Ted was found in the water a couple of days later. Which was a sad way to end a fantastic life. But George, as I say, played for Chile for a lot of years afterwards. And as you saw with his family coming over when they put the plaque up, Newcastle United was still a very important thing for them, as it is to all of us, of course.
Yeah, and of course we've mentioned it on previous shows as well. Had the blue plaque put up, which is absolutely fantastic. Right. George, as always, thank you for taking us on that journey back in time on Those Were the Days. Look forward to catching up with you again next week, mate. Take care.
Thanks, Steve. Good to see you. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.